Well, everybody, thank you all so much for coming despite the crazy weather, and welcome to this installment of our Visual Voices Artist Talk series here at Flower City Art Center. Today I'm honored to introduce Bannon, the founder of the Odyssey Project, as well as our panel of Odyssey Project participants. Bannon is an award-winning photojournalist who started the Odyssey Project in 2019. Odyssey is an ongoing series of intensive 12-week workshops that help returning combat veterans to reintegrate back into civilian life through photography, peer support, and artist-to-educator mentoring. The Odyssey workshop seeks to use photography to activate new connections for combat veterans, to find purpose together, and to create meaning and discover beauty through image making. This unique art engagements program has influenced Bannon across New York State, presenting exhibitions here at the Flower City Art Center, as well as the SEPA Gallery in Buffalo, and has partnered with the Queens Center in Queens, New York, as well as the Josephine Hurwitz Project in New York City. This past fall, Flower City Arts Center partnered with the Odyssey Project to offer a 12-week intensive photography workshop to the Rochester veteran community. And the incredible results created from diverse perspectives of veteran participants at Flower City Arts Center, as well as the SEPA Gallery, can be seen in the images all around us. The Odyssey Project at Flower City Arts Center was made possible with the support from Sharon Turner, Terry Eckert, Excellus Blue Cross Blue Shield, the Edward M. Down Foundation, as well as the generous support from many private donations. Thank you so much.
The incredible work of the Flower City staff led by Chris.
And thank you so much to everybody to help us bring this amazing program to our veterans. At this time, I'll just ask everybody who hasn't silenced their phone, so please do that now. And without further ado, let us welcome Brendan Bannon.
All right. Thank you to everybody who has a role in making this happen, from the benefactors of the program to the advocates of the program at Flower City. Special shout out to Chris Salento, who drove back and forth to Buffalo when Odyssey was first offered, and then spoke to Juliana about bringing it to Rochester, and Juliana was excited about the idea. And although it took a little while for us to be here and to make this happen, y'all definitely made it happen, and we're looking forward to continuing the journey and to creating opportunities for other veterans in Rochester and the surrounding areas to participate in Odyssey. And so thank you all. Thank you to folks on the panel here. We have Sean on the left as you're looking, Ilario, DJ, and Sam. They were all participants in this fall's Odyssey workshops, both here in Rochester and in Buffalo, and I'm excited for them to show and share their work. I've also prepared a little bit of a background on the project, its influences and intentions, and I'll start out talking about that background. It's been integral to to what we've been able to do. And one of the things that I've learned from the veteran community is acknowledging the history, acknowledging the people that contributed to your mission, acknowledging the people that aren't here because they contributed to the mission. So I'm going to start by acknowledging my artistic mentor, a World War II veteran. He was piloting amphibious landing vehicles in the South Pacific. His name was Joe Orfeo. He came back from World War II with what today you'd call PTSD. And he spent a long time, arguing, fighting, accommodating, making peace with his demons, and then putting the work that he did to address what he came home with to good use. He went from search and destroy missions to seek and find beauty missions, and in doing so gave a gift to me that I'm trying to pass on to other people. in my early 20s dealing with a mental health crisis, chronic depression as a caregiver to my mom, kind of, unable to think my way out of a paper bag. Joe Orfeo was there for me and helped me map a path forward in my life that included arts, that really pivoted around arts, and I found out that art can save a life. And I've been dedicated to using and sharing what he taught me, and creating Odyssey has been an incredible opportunity to do that on an organizational level, and it happens with community support. So Joe, when he died in 2013 in Colden, New York, I was thinking about what he had done, where he had gone. I was just back from Africa, where I was teaching workshops in refugee camps and HIV clinics, and trying to amplify voices of people who are dealing with different type of trauma. And being back in the States presented me an opportunity to continue that work and this mission to serve veterans like Joe. He sat in his studio at the end of his life in Colden, New York, or would sit in front of the TV. I'd sit with him, and his wife would say, "What are you doing, Joe?" And he'd say, "I'm painting." And she'd laugh because he was sitting in front of the TV. But he didn't have a lot of energy, so he was mapping out all of the brush strokes that he needed to make a painting like this. Can we dim the lights, too? All right, perfect. We all owe a debt of gratitude to people who've come before us in our fields, in our lives, in our friendship. And Joe was key to this program, and I want to acknowledge his influence. I'm going to take you through a couple of the early bits and pieces that have helped to define what Odyssey is. This is a photograph of Sam Sacco, and when I organize the exhibits, I'm dealing with a certain few themes that come out in everybody's work. They are universal themes I've seen and heard from soldiers who are coming back from war, but they also apply to people who are dealing with trauma and challenges in other ways. We're not alone in our challenges, and we have an incredible opportunity to learn from each other's challenges and struggles when we make the time to share those, or when people make the space safe to listen to them. So beginnings, I thought about Joe and how he refracted the light of the galaxy into his paintings. And Sam Sacco brought this picture into one of the early workshops, which was essentially the universe refracted again. We make cyanotypes as part of Odyssey. This is the cover and the back cover of the book that we did after our initial project in 2019. Each one of these is a life-sized portrait, self-portrait of a veteran who's been through the program. You can tell a whole variety of different strategies, different messages, different narratives in each of these. You're looking at ones that were made by our groups from Rochester and Buffalo, so that you can see what they look like life-sized. We do another thing that's not on display, which is the things we carried, and that's where we invite veterans to utilize objects that they've carried through their service and through their deployment, and to tell the stories of what those things meant to them. This is Nate Mabies. He's a Seneca Marine, and he wrote, "Sweetgrass is used to attract positive energy, sometimes burned after smudging to bring good energy after all the negative is pushed out. This particular braid of sweetgrass traveled with me to the sands of Iraq, always in my flak jacket behind my sappy plate. When on mission, I wanted to make sure I held as much positivity around me to keep my head straight." That's a self-portrait in double exposure that Nate made. Nate made a lot of images that were double exposures, and When he showed them, the room kind of lit up and you could hear everybody recognize their own story in the images. So I asked Nate, what would you think if we made this part of what we do in Odyssey? And he was like, okay. So he taught the first double exposure workshops. And as you look around the room here, you'll see the powerful impact of being able to put different times and spaces together in one image. In the double exposures that the recent Odyssey students have made. This one he titled Sometimes Coming Back and Sometimes Going Home. So as part of the things we carried, assignments, people are invited to really embrace the possibilities that they see, feel, and think about. And in this case, this is Natalie from our New York group who talked about how her dog, her service dog, is helping her actually carry the things that she brought home with her. That's Hoosier. Hoosier was at all of our New York workshops, and he comes back for every exhibit that we do. Mike Shanley. He made all these sunsets starting in Iraq. He described himself as not a religious person, but that he needed a ritual that reminded him on a daily basis that he was still here, that he was still in the game, and that there was a tomorrow coming. So he made a point of greeting the sun when it rose and of greeting the sun when it went down. And that was part of the practice that kept him going. This was a like 30-foot print. It was about 3 feet high and was part of our original Buffalo exhibit. And that's Shanley's cyanotype describing his journey from being a soldier to being an American ninja, using his athletics as a way to kind of make his transition better for himself. He called me after he made this and he was like, yo, Brendan, I gotta tell you, I fucked up. Like, I made a mess of the cyanotype. I'm gonna need another one. And I was like, just send it to me, let me see. And he sent it to me and I was like, okay, if that's you messing up, I can't wait to see what you do when you're winning, because that's pretty amazing. This cyanotype was featured in one of the best books on alternative processes by Jill Enfield, and was the kind of poster image of the Buffalo exhibit. Families are incredibly important. You can look around and see people who are brothers and sisters in arms, but also people who are mothers, fathers, sons, husbands, wives, partners, friends. And when you look at the work that's on the wall after we're done talking, pay special attention to that, because this is, in addition to many other things, a kind of family album. This is Erica's self-portrait. I wanted to show the daily struggle of living with post-traumatic stress disorder. I wanted to make a picture that shows how I'm drowning in everyday life. After the turmoil of war, there's a difficulty in returning to the identity, family, and community that we left. Peace photography, to me, represents the documentation and process of finding a way back to who we are now and getting to know and love that person, Rob Healy. That's Rob Healy's double exposure self-portrait with his son, Lucas. And that's his son with his mom. And that's his cyanotype portrait of him and his son. And that was an attempt to make the work more public and accessible. Peace photography to me means capturing the best of life and our world to remind ourselves what is at stake when war tramples through our lives. Marlene Roll. Marlene's photograph, which is on display in the next room. I've intentionally included some photographs from previous participants because previous participants continue to be engaged and involved in the program. The door is open to anybody who's done Odyssey to come back and participate, observe, mentor. You know, when I started doing this project, I was thinking that I needed to carry it all myself and do it all myself, and it's been a real education for me to have veterans step in and be like, yo, you are tired, you need to sit down and let somebody else drive and take over. It took me until I was doing this project to learn that lesson, and it's something that's radically changed my life. So thank you to people who have insisted that they're here to help and have made that kind of impact for each other and for me. This is John Thompson. John Thompson was one of our New York City participants. He was in a Special Forces unit in Vietnam. He was specialized in extracting folks from difficult situations. And that's a self-portrait that he made as part of the program. I'm going to zip through this. It's another picture he made about his experience in Vietnam and how it's in every tick of the clock today. This is also a kind of family program, which surprised me. It wasn't part of how it was designed, but it's been part of how it's been used by people. And one of the veterans early on was struggling with an assignment that was triggering to her, and I said, why don't you go out with your daughter and make some portraits of each other. Your daughter can tell you what she wants you to photograph, and then you can tell her what you want her to photograph, and you can make pictures for each other. And this is one of the pictures that came out of that exercise. And that's the veteran who made that picture of her daughter, with her daughter describing how she wanted the picture to appear. Another kind of last component is finding ways like this to amplify the work that people are doing. It's super, super important that this work gets made. It's also really important that the work gets seen, and it's also incredibly important for people to understand that their work is out there, spreading the message that they wanted to share, and very often telling somebody else at times that they don't recognize, because the work is out there in the world, that they're not alone. We had Batavia's PTSD program come to the initial workshop or initial exhibit in Buffalo, and I watched from a distance as somebody just wept in front of one of the pictures. And I went to the art therapist first who brought this group and asked, is she okay? Do we need anything? She went to speak to that veteran and then came back and said those were tears of relief. She was looking at that picture, and after carrying things that she thought she was carrying alone for 10 years, she recognized through that picture that she was no longer alone. And that she hadn't been alone those 10 years, that what she was going through, somebody else was sharing that experience. So what you guys are putting out into the world through your work, and why it's important to have these public exhibits, is because we don't know who's going to be reached next by the things that you've transformed within yourself, who's going to see that path forward, the one that Joe Orfeo put down for me, the one that you guys are putting down for people who may have preceded you, or people who are coming, out of war and struggle after you. So that's a kind of brief history of Odyssey and where we came from, and a little bit of where we're going. And now I'm going to turn attention to our panel here. And after they have a chance to share their work and speak about it, I'm going to highlight some of the work that other veterans who are in the room have made as part of this project. And then we'll have a dedicated period of time to answer questions. but I want this to not be a monologue. I say that after I'm done with my monologue, but seriously, I want this to be a conversation. I should have said that at the beginning. And if you have a question that's burning and you want to ask it, raise your hand and we'll call on you. If you have a comment or something to share, raise your hand and we'll call on you. And as much as we can make this a dialogue that everybody's participating in, that'll match the spirit of the program. We're going to run through this in a way that's very similar to what we do in class. You know, I don't want anybody to feel like they are being asked to, you know, present their whole story or to present, you know, some analytical approach to what art means to them. People do an incredible job in class of describing and opening people's eyes with their artwork and their words, and that's what I'm going to ask you guys to do. So let's just run through this like we would run through a class session with you guys sharing, and the rest of the participants having an opportunity to comment or ask questions. Sean, are you ready?
Yeah, sure. You'll have to forgive me. I have a brain injury from an IED, and I don't have the best memory in the world, so I don't remember the assignment that this came from. However, I took this picture at the stage there, and it is to this day one of my favorite pictures I've ever taken. I just find symmetry very appealing. I don't know. It was one of those things that just kind of happened. It's definitely a picture.
Go ahead, you need more on that.
No, it's just, I look at it now, I see it on the wall in the other room, and I don't know, it blows me away. There's 3 copies of this picture that were made. One hangs here, one is in Gallery 32 in Canandaigua, and the other one, with the first printing that I made, I gave to my mom. So those 3, those are the only 3 that I ever plan on making. I love that picture so much.
And that's a real thing when you give a copy to your mom. Like, that is no joke right there.
It is.
And I met Sean's mom here last night. So one thing.
Do you remember these?
Was that from?
I preface this by saying that I have a brain injury.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
I don't remember exactly which assignment it was, and you know, I think the assignments can be somewhat predictive of the results, but definitely not entirely predictive. I encourage people to bring what they have and what they're willing to share to the assignments, and to find the boundaries that they either want to push through or to obey those boundaries and not push through them. But people are thinking in 1,000 different directions, so it really could have been almost anything. One of the things I'm thinking about in this context, and probably because we're working with veterans, that comes up over and over again in the selection and curation of work, is this kind of omnipresence of the red, white, and blue. You know, maybe because we're in Bill's country, but I think it has something to do with the ideas and ideals that people signed up to defend. And so when that shows up either accidentally or intentionally, it's something that I'm always happy to see. All right.
As Brendan had said before, family becomes a very big part of this project. This was back in fall, obviously, as the leaves are changing. These are 2 of my 3 children, and they were just sitting on this bench, and it's over at Bowden Park out in Victor area. And I took my time to bring my camera pretty much everywhere I go now, and this kind of just came out. We took a walk, and the moment happened. They were both sitting there, kind of skipping stones for a minute, and sat down, and I was behind them and saw it. And taking time to spend with them kind of reminds me of what this picture reminds me of that. And family is one of the biggest parts of my life, so. Once again, my son, that is my middle child. I have not been doing photography for very long, but I've taken to it very quickly and I love doing it. Anything I can do to kind of change perspectives in my photographs is something that I try to do. This is nothing but a glass sphere and my son holding it in his hand, but being able to flip it and actually see him in the right way when everything else is upside down, it tells a lot about my emotional state in that moment. Like, it's very intuitive of who I am, and just all my work is like that. And as I've gone through the classes of Project Odyssey, and every week we would have a different assignment, and that's what we were talking about. Every time I would try to push myself into doing something that I wasn't necessarily comfortable with, like in photography. And I've just learned and kept learning, and things like this just happen. This is one of my double exposures. So this is a sunset picture, and the original is called Planned Spontaneity because those two women were there. It was a woman and her daughter, and I knew I wanted to be there for sunset. I made it a point at the end of summer to make sunset like that. No matter what it was doing, sunset, I needed to be somewhere to take pictures. And this day, they just happened to be on the steps, and I had them sit across from each other, and everything worked out. And then the picture on top of it was another picture I had taken of that same spot at a different time, and layered the trees over it. So you have two different kind of perspectives. You can see the towers on the far left there, and then again in the background right next to the sun. And it kind of hides the one person. It's very moving to me. This is my self-portrait. I did not get a chance to do a cyanotype as I had a migraine the day it happened. I was up at 4 a.m. throwing up, and it was not a good day. So I ended up leaving the retreat a day early, so I did not get to do one. I ended up doing this in camera and through some editing, but this was my self-portrait. It was kind of, I don't know, through this I've never really felt like I've belonged anywhere since the military kind of came in, and my kids have been a very big saving grace to me. It's been everything. And as they get older, my youngest is now turning 13, they have their own lives, and I didn't really have anything for myself. And that's when I started looking kind of for anything, and I started volunteering for honor flight with veterans and going down to DC. And the first thing they asked me to do was take pictures, and I was like, all right. And as I've come into my own through, I'd say about a year and a half of photography, I feel like I go out now. I go do things. I actually write for New York State Music. I do concert photography. So I think this picture especially is like the transition of who I was and then coming into who I am now. And it's been quite the journey.
I love you made that cyanotype, even though you missed the...
That's right, I did.
You missed the day, but you weren't going to miss out.
Never. So one of the experiences that I got to do through Project Odyssey was we had the opportunity to go down to New York City for the Veterans Day Parade. This kind of changed my photography a lot. JD went down with us as well, and Brennan, and we met a couple of people from the Odyssey down in New York City. And this is the first night Brennan took me out and kind of started teaching me how to shoot in the streets. And this was Times Square almost, I think. And we found these little tubes that were venting like heat probably into the building or something, and just kind of sat in a spot and waited for the right times. And it is learning that lesson of street photography definitely changed things for me. And ever since I've been back, since the pictures that I took there, and have been the work I've been doing since I've been back, has completely changed. So it was.
So that lesson for people who want to learn it is compose the background, pick your spot, and wait for the action to come through it. Then you have an opportunity to make pictures over and over again of the same scene, but the meaning changes as people move through it. Right?
Yep. In New York City, we got to go up on the Empire State Building with John, who is from the New York City program. And this was on the way up, and it was just, there was a random woman looking out a window, and I could see the streaks above her through the sunset, and I was still in my sunset phase at this point, and getting to go up on the Empire State Building at sunset, like, come on. So, it saw the glow, and I liked it. I don't know.
But for everybody at sea level, it was already down.
Yeah, it was already like, the streets were already dark.
You see it when you're up 100.
I'm wondering what's coming next, if there's more of them, but, okay, so maybe not. But like, just going up in the Empire State Building at sunset, being able to take pictures of things, I have some that are just phenomenal, that came out amazing. But then the next day, or that day actually, earlier that day, we got to do the Veterans Day Parade and kind of walk up and down the lines behind the barricades, take pictures wherever we wanted. I actually got in trouble right after this photo by the mayor's bodyguard. He's like, "Were you supposed to be in here?" I was like, "No," and just kind of ran the other way.
I was so proud of him.
So we kind of made our way around and just kind of walked the line, and as the parade was going down and coming back, we took pictures and got to see a whole bunch of cool stuff. And I don't know. It's like being a press photographer for the first time.
I think we're about to transition to Sam's images because I grabbed one of hers as I grabbed yours, but one more.
That's one. So this is the top of the Empire State Building. The sun had already set, and this is an area, I don't know if you can like pay more to get up there, but it's not the normal observation deck that everyone sees with like the bars and you're outside. This is above that. This is I believe the 102nd floor. And the room is about half the size of this room. There was obviously people in there with us. It was very tight quarters. You couldn't really move around a whole lot. And I ended up getting a silhouette picture of everybody that was kind of just standing around over there. And you can't really see much with the clouds, but the purple in the front, the reflection of the people, it stood out to me.
It's beautiful. So before we move to Sam's pictures, if there are any questions for Sean while his work is at the forefront. And if there aren't at this moment, you have them later, bring them out.
I'm pretty open with any questions you guys have.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
You seem to have a really good eye, you know, and your photos are good. So, do you feel like that was part of you before Odyssey, and you were aware of it, or is it something that...
I was definitely not aware of it if it was part of me. When I started taking photos for Honor Flight, I had to be pulled aside and told basically how bad my pictures were. And I had to learn some secrets. For people that know things about cameras, I had to learn what like auto ISO settings were because it was just, I was not good. And as I started to progress and really dig into what photography was, YouTube as much information as I did, and then coming into this program, when I say New York City changed me, that's how it changed me. Like, my photography became more, I want to say directed. Like, I already knew kind of how to shoot an event and look for that one, that time that you really want, but I didn't really know how to hone it down until then. And at that point, it kind of clicked and came together to the point where, I mean, I've been invited at this point. Next week, I'll be shooting your New York City's fashion week. Like, a year and a half. Like, it's been a while, right?
Yeah, wow.
So, I appreciate it.
Sean, is it okay if I share something that your mom said last night?
Absolutely. First of all, my mother is one of my favorite people in the world. Through all my PTSD and through everything else, she stood by me like the entire time, and there wasn't many people that did, to include my wife at the time. And she is the reason why I'm still here today. So yeah, share whatever she said.
So I met, Brendan and I met your mom and dad.
Mm-hmm.
And I just was very struck by how impacted she feels the program has been, what an impact it has had for you, that she sees it as changing you, and that you were looking for something and kind of wandering around looking for something, and this program was the spark, and you found it. And I told her that I could see that, because even just wandering around the halls, you know, before or during the Odyssey Project meetings, I would see you, and you would come up to me and say, I gotta become a member. How do I become a member? I gotta take classes, how, you know, and you're just excited and exuberant about the Odyssey Project. So
It is.
I knew something was going right.
Yeah, she's dead on. The project Odyssey is something that's completely changed it. I was into photography, like I'd say it was a hobby for me beforehand, and now I'm looking at doing it full time. Like I'm decided to go back to school for photography. I'm getting ready to apply at RIT, so I had to go back to FCC for a minute and go through there, and this has become everything that I love to do. This and yeah.
Sounds like we have a resident artist who's gonna be coming in here.
Yeah,
right.
Two more bonus pictures too here that I missed.
Oh, so that's my youngest son. That's a double exposure I did. That is the treehouse that the people from Corning built out in the middle of the woods at Cannon Falls. If you keep going past the Cannon Falls, it's the corner, the Hayuga Nature Center. And they have a 6-story treehouse in the back, but this is just a little chair that's out front. And then I love that picture. That's another New York City picture at the parade. I ended up talking to this kid afterwards for a minute, but I don't know. I saw it. It comes down to what I said. It's just like, it's not that I was looking for that moment, but that moment just came, and immediately I was like, I can take a picture of that. Like, I find myself just wanting to capture those things. So I love, like, in the 48 Star American flag, like that's cool to me. A little, like, nice little touch. But no, love it.
Excellent. Thanks, Sean.
Appreciate it.
Sam? And these are not in a specific order?
I'm a little nervous, sorry. So this photo was, I can't remember which week it was or anything, but it definitely is a self-portrait, obviously. This is me dressed in a outfit that is supposed to be representing Chicanos, right? On this journey of figuring out on who I am, I decided to do a little bit of background searching or learning about the movements and how I got to be where I am here, because everyone has fought something to, like, any right? So I looked into the lipstick, the makeup, the outfits, and they all have a story. The lipstick, the lip liner was actually it was a political stance against the American beauty standard for women. So the lip liner added to the red lipstick was in contrast, to stand out. The thin eyebrows were to stand out. The outfits were to also stand out. The outfits have changed and started in the 40s and they came to this outfit, I think around the 60s, 70s, into the well, the 90s. It's supposed to represent the working class and that we dress nicely and we stand out very well. We will not be silenced and we will be seen everywhere we go. In the 1930s, they did a mass deportation as well, saying that Mexicans were the reason of the downfall for the Depression or whatever, you know? And that's not the case. So we're still here, we're still fighting, and that's what I want to represent, that I'm still here, I'm still fighting, and I will not be silenced. So, picture means a lot.
It's interesting too, is the kind of opposite of camouflage, which seems to
blend
make
in.
you blend in with the background, and this is
So this is a picture of my sister-in-law, Julia. She's always super supportive with my work and always so willing to like help me out. And I had a vision and I wanted to use her for it because for me on the outside, she's always having this very like tough exterior. She's just like, I'm gonna do this, I don't care what anybody says, put your foot down. But on the inside, she has such a soft heart. She is so, I wouldn't say patient, she has a little bit less patience really. But she is understanding and she will listen, but she is fragile, she gets hurt a lot and she's there for everyone. She always wants to build a bridge, she's always very understanding. But in these photos, I just really wanted to show the beauty in that and the beauty in the aggressiveness that she can have sometimes, because I feel that a lot of us are taught that it's not okay to be aggressive, it's not okay to be angry, it's not ladylike, it's not conducive to fighting for something, right? But I think you need it. I think it shows a lot of strength in one way or another. You know, you're not backing down. And I think that was important for me to kind of show in these photos. The same thing with this one. She's a great knife thrower, by the way. So she has a lot of knives. These are all hers.
She made some of these?
She didn't make any of them, no, but her dad did. Actually, I'm gonna stand up actually, I'm sorry.
Go for it.
If you see these 3 blades here, they're actually welded to brass knuckles. I know they're illegal, I get it, but they actually show like Wolverine. If you guys watch, what is it? I totally forgot. Blinking on the name. Yeah, X-Men. So that's actually really cool. But she showed me her knife collection when I first like moved out here, and she literally has been so accepting towards me. She's always made me feel at home. She's like, come over here, you know, lets me not worry a lot. She's a really, I don't know, weirdly enough, she's a really good like solid stone to like rely on for me. So at least for me.
I'm going to leave her in case she looks at the video later.
She does like this photo a lot. She's like, is everybody seeing my photo? It's so funny. I was like, yes, Julie, actually, it's a big poster. She's like, wait, no, are you serious? She's like, I don't want it that big. I was like, I'm just kidding. This is my significant, oh my God, I'm sorry. This is David. Also a veteran. Oh, sorry. He means a lot to me, as you can see. He's helped me tremendously through all of my phases. I was a huge alcoholic when he met me and not doing very well, but he was very patient with me and helped me through so much, even currently with everything I'm going on with at home. With this Odyssey program, I had to take a picture of a veteran and someone I admired, and this is who I wanted to photograph. And I wanted a zoom-in photo because I think in military we get lost in being a unit, you know, and we forget that we're individuals with feelings, with lives, with family structure at home, with things that happen to us all the time. And we carry a lot of that emotion or grievances and stories in our faces. And being able to zoom in on that, that's what I really want to capture in this photo. Yeah, it means a lot to me.
It's great meeting you last time.
This is a self-portrait of me in my home. These are all my plants as well. It's a double exposure. I love plants. These plants were given to me during my birthday about 3-4 years ago, and they're still alive. They're kicking and doing well. But if you think about it, like plants need nurturing, and I think it's like one of the things that make me realize when I'm no longer taking care of myself, because then I stop taking care of them. And it's a great reminder to be like, all right, time to wake up. Your plants are dying, means you're dying. Fix yourself. And once I do start taking care of them, I do feel like a shift in me, and it feels whole, feels nurturing, and I think we all need to do that for ourselves. Yeah.
We do.
What a beautiful photo, honestly. I was stationed in Japan, and this is on top of Mount Fuji. The entire journey up there was a very hard one. As easy as it looks on the pictures on TV screens, it's not as easy as it looks. It's actually pretty steep. There was some moments where you did have to climb. It gets very cold, very fast, like out of nowhere. It took me 20 hours with 5 hours of sleep. I got up there and I realized that you can't focus on the destination, even if other people are just focused on that. You have to appreciate every step that you take, because there's something different, a different view, something to appreciate. And to be honest, this isn't even what I remember when I think about Mount Fuji. I think about the halfway point the most. And I think that's really impactful, because I think being 30, this is the time that I'm going to remember the most. So I got the most out of it. This is during a hike in Japan as well. I don't know where I really stand with religion. It's been a journey trying to figure that out. What I believe in, what I want to practice, what feels whole to me, I guess. I grew up Catholic, so the Virgin Mary, that motherly figure, stands a lot to me, because I never really had it growing up. So I just took this picture. Sorry, a little emotional.
You're good.
This was actually taken in, oh man, I don't remember the name of the little town. It's not too far from, it's like not far from Lockport, but it's like before it's Pendleton or something like that. I don't know, it's right around Buffalo. But this was last year, and these are the Northern Lights. And this was actually a buddy's house of mine. We had called his mom and asked if we can go take pictures at her house for the Northern Lights, and she was like, yeah, come on through. She's met me once before, and she was just like, please come here and take photos. Like, you're allowed here anytime you want. I'm like, thank you. But the Northern Lights have always been a dream of mine to see, so when you're in the face of something that's just natural and just so beautiful, so colorful, so moving, so fleet, like it just there for a short amount of time. There's an appreciation that you can have, and I cried. I don't know, it's beautiful, peaceful. I like nature. I think it speaks to me in a peaceful way. Like, you're never really gone. You know, you're always surviving. You'll always come back in one way or another.
I love this picture too because of the kind of simplicity of an American home and yard.
and then the complexity that you can see here of this galactic phenomenon, and the way that those two things come together in a photograph, in a workshop that often is talking about the challenges of coming home. There's a picture that kind of presents some of the opportunities for the real beauty of being back, and that people can access and see. And I'm sure there are a lot of other ways to read that, but that hit me when I saw this picture. Beautiful.
That's my baby boy. That house that you guys just saw in the last picture is where he was born. We've had him for 2 years now. As you can see, I'm in my hardcore Chicana look, you know. I'm really proud of this photo. Again, it just shows like this was a very common stance in all like Chicana photos that you would find. I find them all over my childhood pictures that I have with my family members. Those shoes, don't know why, but that is the key shoe for an outfit of a Chicana or Chicana look. Like you have to have those Cortezes. If not, it's not the look. But I wanted to show, because like a lot of people look at this image and they're like, that's a gang member. They do crazy things, they're into drugs, you can't trust them, they're gonna steal something. They label us in so many different ways just because of how we look, and they think we're dangerous. But this photo shows that I'm not. We're not dangerous, we're just human. We have animals that we love, and we're soft in one way or another, you know?
I just want to know your recipes.
Oh, I didn't know you were gonna put this one up. Whoa. It's a self-portrait. I go through a lot of anxiety, as I am right now. My heart is like, I'm shaking. I wanted to, getting out was extremely difficult. I have extreme anxiety. I can't think straight a lot of the time anymore. I don't have any trust. It's hard to build trust with people and feel safe around them. So this was to show all of those doubts, fears, questioning, and how crazy sometimes it makes me feel like suffocated, and I just want to get out of my own skin. I just want it to stop. So it just kind of wanted to show what that feels like on the inside, even when nothing is showing.
So the picture in the center shows you, to me, to be incredibly centered, like incredibly strong in the storm.
You can't show emotion, you know? It's what I was taught, at least. You put this on too? This is a journey of mine. So this is my other sister-in-law. Honestly, there's my brother-in-law's right here with me, so she is an artist. Her name's Emma, but she goes by EMAC. I took photos for her on her very first show down in I think it was Peabody's in Norfolk, California. And we started this journey together, and we've been working together since then. It's been 3 years since she started this, and this was her biggest show, like ever. This is the biggest like crowd that she's ever done, and it happened last minute. They literally called her an hour before she was supposed to get on. They're like, hey, we need a person, can you do this? And she was like, yeah, I'll be right there. And I'm really proud of her. And I'm proud of myself for allowing a dream to become reality, because I never thought that I would be doing something like this. And now I just don't see my life without it.
So you sent that to me. This was very recent, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this was literally last weekend on Friday.
It's a great picture.
Thank you.
Yeah. So as you were talking about this being part of your journey, I just had to stand up and take a picture that looks a lot like this.
Yeah. Good for my audience.
sorry, that picture before that. The one, it looks like an album cover. That one looks like, that'd be perfect for an album cover.
I gotta start making music.
All right, amazing work. Thank you, Sam.
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you.
So I just want to start by thanking everybody for coming out in this crappy weather today, and all the veterans in the room that were part of this program, and previous cohorts and current cohorts, and the mentors and all of it. It's been life-changing for me in a lot of ways. Picking up a camera and starting to document things. Brendan talked about looking through a lens and making this moment to affirm yes to a situation, to an event, to a moment in time. I was born and raised in New York City. I went to elementary school in Chinatown, and like the energy and the noise and the juxtapositions of all of this, I had the opportunity to be down there for Thanksgiving, and this was a great, there's a lot of things happening. If you could even just pick up this is at 5 o'clock in the morning, it's cold. That's the Cardio Bakery. There's a chef inside smoking. There's somebody's walking by, garbage, energy. I just enjoy. There's a kind of energy to New York City, and it would inform a little bit of my story later. And Brendan, if you'd advance. But I also want to say to the folks at Flower City, I've done programs here with you all, and in the past, and it was through your list that I found out about the Odyssey Project. And you gave it credibility, because I've really enjoyed coming here and attending programs. So anybody in the room thinking about it, and I'm shouting out to some of my friends that are here, a veteran who I hope will do Odyssey in the future, Matt, Stefan, the programs here are tremendous. And Jillian and Heather, I hope you guys consider in doing some art exploration. I come back to the imagery that I find that strikes me. I really am driven by text, and that's my cyanotype at the back: make art, not war, be good at both. I like text. I'm inspired by Barbara Kruger. If any of you are familiar with her work, of bold, red background, white text, typically on a black and white photo, but even like the copy setting of a magazine, I really enjoy that. So when I see words, most of my tattoos are words. Words really resonate to me. So in the vein of kind of painting a picture, I just wanted to share some imagery that was powerful for me. These are some images, and if you'd advance, please. I took some of these. I was at the graduation. I have two sons, both are in the Army, and serving proudly at the pointy end of the spear. But there's something almost sad and dirty about this picture, and it's kind of the portrayal of America, the black star but I love it, and it resonates with me, and everybody's got a different experience with their service and with what it means, but I'm one of the believers that we'd all be speaking Jerpan and Japanese if it wasn't for hard men willing to do hard things in dark places, and that continues through. And we can make a lot of assumptions about, what's just or what's appropriate in the modern era, but you always have to kind of realize sometimes it takes a span of history to be able to look back and see what causes were truly just or not. And for those of us that have fought wars that are widely considered now today to be mistakes, we have to have some sense of kind of the bigger vision of where we in our service and our sacrifice fit in. Brendan, if you'd advance, please. This is a self-portrait, again, at the Infantry Center of Excellence at Fort Benning, Georgia. This is an image. There's a piece of steel of the World Trade Center above that. I witnessed the World Trade Center attack, so I had been an enlisted Marine, and then I went back into the Marine Corps again after 9/11, and for a lot of us, sometimes we lose sight, but 20 years of war followed those attacks, and again, just, unjust, righteous, I'm not qualified to say, but certainly popular opinion is turned against the judgment, and yet, here we are, like so many of our forebrothers and fathers who, for example, are Vietnam veterans who watched not only their service and sacrifice be turned over in front of their eyes as the American embassies evacuated in Vietnam, but then later to be treated poorly when they came home. our experience 10 times better than that, and yet still unknown. Was it a mistake? Was it not a mistake? Brendan, will you advance? This is a portrait that speaks to me. This is, first of all, if you've seen blood spatter, it actually spatters a lot like sweat, and sweat spatters like that because of the salt and the crystalline nature. It doesn't spatter like normal water spatters. So this is something that speaks to me on a lot of levels. This was an image from an assignment that we had of home, and for me, home is all about preparing for war and lethality, and home, home, obviously there can be loving and nurturing environmental aspects also, but for me, everything after 9/11 in my life went from color and light to different shades of olive and tan and black. I was involved in the global war for a long time, and now both of my sons, one has already done a combat tour in Syria, and one almost died in a parachuting accident last Friday. We are involved, this is the family business, so home is preparation for combat, and this is a place that I do it. It's at a gym in Canandaigua that's owned by my friend here, and it's provided me a safe space, and training environments like this have been important in my life for the last 40 years. Would you advance? This is another image from my home image, and this is a rope, so ropes are part of a training regimen. Why? Is it just about the upper body strength? There's lots of ways to stimulate that. Really, it's actually about overcoming your fear, because as you're climbing a rope, you're getting higher, and then the fear is, well, if I can't make it and I fall and I'm 15 or 20 feet above the ground, am I going to be hurt? Am I going to die? So not only is there a physical element, right, there's a psychological element to a lot of the things that we do. And what struck me about this and some of the other images that you might see around here as you tour is how frayed that rope is. And that rope, that there's allegory there for, the ties that bind, and how things that seem strong and enduring can also be incredibly delicate and coming apart at the edges. Brendan, will you advance? This is an image that my buddy Gary, Vietnam veteran, really responded to, and I put this here really to honor you, partner. This is something that is a close-up of a statue, again a memorial type statue in honor of heroes lost in the global war on terror at the Infantry Center. The idea of fingers straight and off the trigger, that's how that was portage. That's how you maintain. You're kind of always ready to very quickly snap up and engage. And the detail of that statue spoke to me. Brandon, will you advance? I'm sure many of you are familiar with the idea of, as a soldier is fallen or being memorialized, sometimes a display is made in the field. Often it's done with literal boots and a sandbag and their rifle, if it's recovered, and a bayonet. The rifle is then stuck in the sandbags with their helmet placed on top and their dog tags. And this is from a statue of that was casting the shadow. And in this moment, I was in real grief, because I'm remembering a lot of my brothers who have fallen, both in combat and then in suicide, and thinking, here I am at the graduation of my 20-year-old baby, getting ready to join this family business, and am I propagating the meat grinder, and what does that mean for me? So I was having a moment of real anxiety and struggling with that. Brendan, will you advance? I really liked the detail of this sculpture, and I fooled around with the filters a little bit to try to black out as much of the actual individual characteristics and favor more just the shape and the outlines. But to anybody that's familiar with this hardware, everything from the Knight's Armament foregrip, they call it a gangster grip that's at the bottom of that M4, to just the ridges on that magazine, is stuff that has like a visceral and automatic, you know exactly what this picture is all about, and it speaks to you in a certain way. Brandon, would you advance? Thank you. So this is something, I was at the Marine Corps Marathon. Fitness has been an important part of my recovery and my continued quest for never-ending lethality. And one of the elements that struck me about this was the falling leaves and our fallen soldiers and the waste, the magnitude, thousands, millions, and for what? The waste, right? So now, again, you could look at this positively and think about, the fact that we have all these wonderful things that we have today, and can we celebrate heroes gone by, and or can we? And what sacrifice was worth it precisely? Brandon, can you advance? These are my sons now. So I was a Marine, and both of my sons one is in the Special Forces, and one's in the 82nd Airborne. and they're doing this thing now, and that picture spoke to me because some of my friends here know I train and invest a couple times a week just to kind of have a shared sense of pain with them in what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. And the other day, in the CrossFit community, we talk about hero WODs, which are workouts in honor of fallen soldiers. And I've had to give thought already on a couple of occasions to what kind of workout I would want to do in honor of my sons should one of them fall. So that becomes a very real part of life in thinking about this stuff in this business. That's a self-portrait after I had a complete breakdown at my son's graduation and just feeling, what have I provided him any off-ramp to this life? Did he feel he had any choices? And all of that, again, kind of coming out with me holding this camera a little bit offside this eye. I think it was brought out one of the peers in our class, maybe it was Brendan, was there like an eyeball, like in there watching me of truth, and you can see I'm puffy from crying. I'm wearing sunglasses now in case I cry now. I'm not going to catch me on film, sorry. Brendan. This is, I can't thank Brendan enough for what he's put together here and all of the volunteers that make it possible and the Flower City Arts Center for lending this space and the teammates in Buffalo that have come out and that have been part of this. But Brendan is the person that has engineered this. And so really this is about honoring you, Brendan, and the level of like the effort that you're making in capturing these things that were important to us. Like you care more about this shit than we do, and you're incredible. And it's important because truthfully for a lot of us, for me, that was stuff that was in a box that wouldn't have come out, it didn't wait for a decade, wouldn't have come out for another decade. And it speaks to my feelings about this class. I didn't want to do it. I had signed up in a moment, I got the email, Flower Center, they're legit, if they're doing something for vet, okay, let me see about it. And the day came for me to go out, and I had packed my shit up, and my mother, who's featured in the portrait over here, said, well, you said you were going to go, right? I'm like, I really don't want to, and but I'll get a good motorcycle ride out of it. It's out, by Buffalo, and I went out, and sure enough, there was some painful things to work through and to talk about, but it was tremendous to get to meet and connect with all of you and hear stories and learn, and that feeling of not otherness, but of sameness, and then also just getting to really learn this skill of photography, which I'm, I think still very much an amateur, but it has influenced the new kind of iPhone that I bought because I purposely went and upgraded so I could have a better camera on me because I hate carrying big black things with straps because that makes me nervous. But when you advance, that's my mama, who's a lioness, and I love this picture. We were to take portraits of people that were important to us. I feel like there's something almost vaguely predatory about that picture, as much as an 80-year-old woman can be. But she's fierce and tremendous, and as Sean said, has invaluably assisted me navigating my own demons and journeys, and those with my kids, and I've just enjoyed the composition of that photo. Brandon? This is out actually when we were this is in Angola, New York, so we're on one of the Great Lakes. This was the retreat where we did this. For those of you that were participants, and for those of you that weren't, Maggie, hopefully you will be a participant in the next cohort. This was really the first day we were we were issued these beautiful Nikon 35mm cameras.
Canons.
Part of Canon 35mm cameras is part of what, let's reset that whole thing to the real. We were issued Canon cameras, these 35mm cameras that were donated generously by Canon, did I say Canon? And having something so dedicated to art making, they give you a level of capability that's beyond anything I think that most of us would possess on our own, and it was just incredible to have these tools at our disposal. This struck me as a lava field, and it's it's the lake, it's the undulations of the lake, but there was something about that red sunset. There was something kind of primordial about it, and it was also represented a special night to me on a personal level because Brandon didn't just choreograph this great training and scholastic opportunity. He had some really wonderful people involved with Youth Advance. Some of you may know Dawn Palmisano, who is one of the members of the previous cohort and who actually was one of the instructors of the course. She and I have recently become engaged and are going to be married. So just want you to know, amazing things happen when you don't expect it. So if there's a moral to the story, it's if you get to sit around or dance, just dance. Anyway.
I'm glad you made that motorcycle ride out.
Me too. Most expensive motorcycle ride of my life. But the best. Best thing ever happened to me.
All right. I can't add anything or ask anything you haven't addressed or talked about. But I do want to say that, that I've just appreciated getting to know you, seeing your work, seeing how you work through things, seeing your dedication to yourself, to others through this process. It's been amazing. And one of the things you mentioned Canon, and I didn't mention Canon before, but this is a photography workshop for veterans. You are people who lived and died by your gear. Yeah. And when I started this project, I wanted to be sure that we weren't handing soldiers a squirt gun. This is something that allows people to grow into their creativity. It's also an asset that people walk away from the program with. And it is, the idea of handing each of you, or issuing each of you a camera that you can use for the rest of your lives, it's that level of quality, is something that friends at Canon responded to, and they've just been integral in being able to deliver that aspect of the program. So thanks for recognizing that, and thanks for sharing so many aspects of your story. It really stands all the time.
I am going to feature DJ's work. And DJ and I met through a previous Odyssey participant. We live not far from each other. It took us 3 years or so to finally meet, but we became friends through Facebook Messenger, and I've been able to watch his engagement with photography and his, just kind of quest for finding beauty in all aspects of life. So I'm going to ask you to say a few words about the selection of pictures, and I'm actually going to share a book that DJ designed for the project. It's another layer of what we do, and another layer of being a veteran, and another layer of being an American that I think is important to highlight at this point. So, DJ, let's hear a bit about each of these.
Okay, I'm going to stand up. It's kind of hard to, kind of painful to turn around all the time. So I'm going to stand up for a little bit more. So, you never know, like, where, this is going to take you. It's interesting because, like, this whole weekend when I took this picture was kind of based around me. I do a lot of work with, like, museums in Western Pennsylvania, particularly at Fort Pitt Museum, the Meadowcroft Rock Shelter, which is, the cabin that I took a picture of over here. And I'm also doing stuff for the Heinz History Center right now, too. So this weekend was around Veterans Day, and the museum had a weekend, a day, an evening where it was just me. I have a portrait photography exhibit going on at the Fort Pitt Museum right now, and they were going to highlight that, as like Native American Month, Veterans Day, all wrapped up into one. And then also on the second floor is another history exhibit that I had a lot of work in. And I was really proud of that because there wasn't anything in there that I didn't have a fingerprint on, from like, the texts to setting up the exhibit to collecting some of the artifacts. So it was really cool to really highlight, what that museum can do and how much that museum cares for Native people and for history in general. So this weekend, another one of our participants by the name of Mateka, she has that Sienna type on the right over there. She's a really cool lady, man, and she got a lot of connections. She works in the VA in Buffalo, and she says, I want to come down and see your exhibit and share your evening with you. And a couple other people from our class came down, and it was a really good evening. But Mateka, she says, that earlier in the morning there's going to be a Veterans Day parade, and you want to join in? And I was like, what do you mean join in? And she goes, oh, I'm going to be in it. I'm like, oh, geez, okay. So we were there with the Wounded Warrior Project, and the next day pretty much I was going to be heading out to New York City with this guy and that guy, and it's going to be taking pictures and getting in trouble with the mayor's office and getting too close to the mayor. It was fun. Just these big dudes, like, you're supposed to be here. Yeah. But yeah, this lady here, I thought it was like a really cool photograph. She was just happy to be alive, and she was all up in her fields and stuff. And I kind of used that whole day there to practice, for New York City, what I thought was going to happen. And New York City was like way different than Pittsburgh was. So I was kind of like in pain a lot during, New York City. And I think there was a lot more people, so I was a lot more on edge there in New York City also. But it was one heck of an experience. I loved it. The street photography that, Sean was talking about was super fun. And just walking around New York City, getting lost, smelling the pee in the subway. It was great. Getting lost on the subway. This guy here, man, he says, yeah, let's just go up this way. And then we're like, okay. And then he's like, I think we went the wrong way. So we had to get back on the subway and go the other way. It's hilarious.
We made it.
We did make it, man. This guy here.
I'm going to show your book, so
Yeah.
you'll have more time with Elliot.
Okay, yeah, this guy is, his name is Elliot Tallchief. He's in his 80s, 82 maybe. And when he was a young boy, he was at the Erie County Fair. And at those times, there was a boarding school on the reservation called Thomas Indian School. And some people called it Salem, like the older guys here, they would call it Salem. But that was just, their way of saying asylum. They didn't have that English language to say asylum, so they just called it Salem. And he got picked up at the Erie County Fair and just taken to that school. It was kind of like he got kidnapped, really. And he stayed at that school for 12 years. Him, his brothers, his sister, and far away from him, his sister was segregated because it was boy-girl dormitories and stuff. They had different jobs and whatnot. So like when he did see his sister, it was like on the far end of a field, and he just waved at her. That's the closest that he got to her for 12 years. So when I asked him to tell his story a little bit, I thought it was just going to take 20 minutes. We ended up talking for like 2.5 hours, and I got a whole bunch of incredible photos from him. And most of those photos are, people are asking like, how do you get those like deep shots? How can you get like all those expressions? Because I got some of him, very somber. I got some of him, crying. I got some of him laughing. Really all it is just interviewing them. If you tell, somebody, hey, what was it like holding your baby for the first time? They're gonna probably smile, and tell you the story. Or what was it like when your mom died? And then their face is gonna change. Just talking the whole process of, interviewing somebody and taking their portraits is probably one of my favorite things to do right now. And I kind of want to carry on what he's gifted me right here, this idea of talking about these native boarding schools and also the Canandaigua, or the Kinzua Dam era in 1965 when a lot of Senecas were removed from their homelands. So like we're in a unique time period where you can actually photograph and take the words of these people that were removed from their homes in 1965. But yeah, Elliot Tall Chief, who's a Navy veteran. I think he was on destroyers, I'm not quite sure. But he also, was talking about how when he got out of the school, how the state would come in, and since he was ward of the state, every job that he had, he got his money taken away. The state says, that's not your money, that's our money, and took his money away. So joining the Navy was like his way of trying to take back his independence from, the state. And it's awesome too, like looking at his hair. His hair was cut, his language was taken away from him. His belief system was tried to get taken away from him too. And, our hair, holds a lot of power and resilience, and, it's like the creator's stamp so he can wander about the earth. And over time, he's grown his hair back, so he's reclaiming himself, back from what he was when he was a boy, when all that was taken away from him. I think he's a great teacher.
Can you tell us a little bit about when the governor came? Can you put this in context?
Yeah, so this past summer, the Governor Hochul, she came to the reservation and she went to apologize, for the school that was on our reservation. And before her speech, she sat down with some of the students. Elliot was there, and she gave him 5 minutes to talk about his experiences with Thomas Indian School, and he got mad. He got really mad, and he told the governor, he says, I spent 12 years at that school. He took 12 years of my life from that school, and you want me to talk about it in 5 minutes? And so when the governor was talking, she was talking about now that can you read the quote here? She was apologizing for the state, putting that school on the reservation like that, and conducting business like they did. And even through records, that I uncovered, because like I'm a historian too, so I kind of went back to the original records, and like those kids didn't have names. They weren't called students. They were called inmates, like prisoners. They were given numbers. So inmate, blah, 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 blah. That was how they cataloged them, kind of like cattle or prisoners. But he's a pretty resilient man, and he pretty much told the governor to shove it, and it's up to me to decide when I'm healed, and I haven't yet started to heal yet. So he's an incredible guy, and I hope the governor took that to heart. So one of the greatest things that he was talking about during this time, towards the end of our conversation, I was trying to get him to talk about, how he feels now, and what message would you want to give to the children, to the future, to the faces that are yet to come. And he says you have to be strong in here and in here to make it in the world. So you have to have a strong heart, you have to have a strong mind, because without any of those two, you're just wandering about the woods lost. I love his eyes in a lot of these ones. You know, sometimes you can see like a little shimmer. I think he had like cataract surgery, so some of these are like reflections from the lenses that they put in his eyes. And I think it's kind of ghostly sometimes, really. But he has a real distinguished face, and when I was like lighting him, it was it was real funny. I was talking to my friend because I did a photo shoot for her just the day before, and I showed her some of these pictures, and she goes, "Oh my God, they are awesome!" And I was like, "Man, I hope my creator forgives me because I used lighting to highlight his wrinkles." Because he has like such character with his face. Like if you like lit him like brightly and right on, some of that character would like get erased from his face. And like he's a weathered man. He's seen a lot of things in his life, and I think each one of those wrinkles deserves its own story. So lighting it with some of those wrinkles, there's him laughing. I think is really important to tell the story. And you can see like that long hair pulling into the back of his head too. So he's definitely reclaiming himself as a human being. I think that's important for every one of us too, is we can sit here and we can like talk to each other, and we can also hear what people are talking about. You hear voices, and if you're in a group of people, they all mutter together. But when you can actually isolate something and not just hear but listen to what people are saying, you can start understanding where they're coming from. And I think that's like the basis of understanding. It's just not hearing what people have to say, but listening and internalizing it so you can apply it to your own life. And I led Tall Chief, U.S. Navy, Vietnam, Thomas Indian School, survivor. I think the whole concept of that book too, is like to be simple. The lighting, albeit, it's not beginner quality lights, lighting, but it's simple lighting. It's just him in a dark background. You highlight his hair, you highlight the wrinkles, but even the words, they're not fancy words. They're black and white words. It's something that's not going to be taken away from the story, not taking your eye away from the story. And also, you can read like a whole textbook out of somebody's life, a whole autobiography, and then you're going to have a hard time internalizing all that thing that you just read about. So reading short little quotes that are simple is something that I learned in the museum world too. Because when you're looking at exhibits and stuff, people are just reading the cliff notes of what each of these items are. So if you're just reading like just small quotes, black and white lettering, it's easier for the eyes and easier for somebody to internalize and make that story. Also, I think that with the Odyssey group here, what I think is interesting with, how I do things is I do a lot of stuff, like I said, with like history and museums and stuff. And, for me, that's fun for me to dig through the past and, highlight certain things that should come to light again. Like the boarding schools, Kinzua Dam, things that might not be on everybody's plate. But when those things come together, with photography and history, that just lights my world. And going back here, this is Pittsburgh again. I thought this was like probably one of my favorite photos from Pittsburgh. This is a child handing out candy to another kid here, and just the peace, the serenity that boy has for, you know, just gifting another child candy is probably something that we should take away right now too. There's so much hate going on in the world and country right now. Sometimes kids are our best teachers. It should be more like that.
I'm gonna run through these last ones really quick.
Okay. I like that baby. She was giving me the stink eye, let me tell you. But I just loved it. This guy, he's cool as heck. He's like 90 years old. He went through basic training with Elvis. He got promoted to sergeant the same day as Elvis. They're buddies in the Army. And, you know, I've been trying to meet up with him for like a while now, but this winter is crazy. And, but he gets a new camera. He wants to, you know, become part of Odyssey also, hopefully in the next class. But this is a silhouette of him. And, you know, he has a strong faith in whatever he believes in. And, you know, I think it, like I said, you know, sometimes simplicity is probably the more powerful thing. Just this silhouette upon like a blue background, I think speaks volumes for that, you know, who he is.
DJ, I have to just make an aside here, and I hope that it doesn't embarrass you, but I want to celebrate the spirit that you came to this friendship with. I asked DJ if he'd consider mentoring commanders. VFW post in Buffalo, he said, yeah, absolutely. And they worked together a little bit, and DJ recognized that he was struggling with his camera. So after completing this amazing job, you're going to see a picture that DJ made soon. DJ turned around and went and got the commander the same camera that we've been issuing to other Odyssey students. Straight out of his pocket. And I know you didn't do it for the recognition, but I recognize it, and I know that that's, you know, that there's love and there's a kind of message in terms of paying it forward. That's really the spirit of what we're trying to do. And he's going to have a chance to make some great pictures with DJ.
I kind of thought that he's closer to the career, closer than any of us, so time's of value, man. It's going to be something that he can use.
If he gets there before you can put in a good word.
I know, right? It's like, I need all the good words I can get. I do a lot of dumb shit. Yeah, so this is all home here. I think this was during our last year when I went through Odyssey. I ended up becoming paralyzed partway through.
Not because of Odyssey.
Not because of Odyssey, but because of a car accident previous years, and I got injuries from that too. But this is like from our dream week, and this is the Allegheny Mountains, you know, where I'm from, and my dream is like living out there. You know, I live in like a 18th century style cabin in the middle of the woods. You know, and all I got is like a wood stove and oil lamps, and that's it. I charge my phone in my truck. I don't got electricity. But other people's dreams are inside a casino, chasing money and hopes of winning big that probably aren't going to come true. So I think that's kind of like kind of an interesting photo for me. This guy, I tell you the whole story about, you know, this photo going back to 1754. This is a photo. I remember I probably missed maybe like 3 weeks of class, and 2 weeks were because of this photo. The government shutdown was happening, and I was asked to do some photographs for the Mount Vernon Museum, and I was like talking to them. They're like, yeah, we could need somebody to do take portraits. We'll use AI to put them in 18th century clothes. And I was like, you know, that's kind of BS. Do you know who you're talking to? And she goes, what do you mean? I was like, I just did a history documentary with you guys, and half of the stuff that people were wearing was stuff from my collection. And so I can outfit somebody in 18th century clothes. And she goes, yeah, we can also use AI to you know, get facial gestures and stuff. I can do that in camera. And she goes, you can do all that? And I was like, I'll do you one even better. I says, I got friends that are going to be on location there where George Washington and this guy Tennyson massacred, a French unit. And I can actually do portraits on that location of that massacre for you if you want like historical correctness for your photos. She goes, yeah, you got the job. So I think this was actually my first time I didn't even practice using ambient light and natural light together. So you can see like the shiny head up there. That's natural light, and then coming from this side, that's off camouflage there. But the whole story behind that too is like you're advancing forward, for me. And this is something that was really close to my heart. I was kind of like really into like landscapes, because I think that's like the photography of lonely dudes, because you don't need any people. So like this is kind of like breaking me out of my comfort zone and actually being around people. And I think it turned out very well, and Mount Vernon is going to be highlighting some of my photography probably within the next 2 or 3 months.
Fantastic.
All right. There's another photo over there too. Come on the wall.
Now, real quick, I'm going to highlight a couple of the other veterans who are in the room and their work, and then we're going to open it up for questions. So, as I highlight these, we're actually at 4 o'clock, which was our closing time, but Odyssey never ends on time. I want to flag Chris, if you can stand up and wave to everybody. Chris was my course assistant, an assistant teacher, and on-call emergency graphic designer and proofreader, and the person who brought Odyssey and created the relationship that we are the fruit of here today. So these are a few of Chris's pictures. I insisted on hanging this one wrong the other day, so I put it in the right way for Chris today. Chris just brings an extraordinary level of creativity to the whole process, and presence for others in the group. He teaches some workshops here too, so pay attention to the schedule. If he's on, it's definitely worth taking a look at and coming in. I'm going to highlight Gary and Ian next. This is Ian's. This is a double exposure, Ian, of you and your brother, right?
Yes.
These are Gary's. These are caskets ready to ship home in Vietnam, and the picture that he shared with class, the first Vietnam wall. This is a double exposure that Gary made of Sharon, who's one of the supporters of this project, and in a story that's just incredible to me that she shared with the class. Her father was a veteran who struggled a lot, probably with PTSD, at that time was undiagnosed, and was gone for most of her life. And when you found out that you had a small life insurance policy from him, you decided to give it to support the veterans in Odyssey today and to help the program happen. And Gary was moved listening to the story and kind of combined the picture of Sharon today and her father as he was when he was in the military. So we have, so many stories from DJs, images going back centuries to Sharon's story in connection with her father and how that's kind of, she paid his experience forward through Odyssey. I mean, I think there's just so much kind of weaving of time and meaning in the work that's being presented. This is John George. John couldn't make it down today because of the weather. Monica Lynch, one of our Buffalo students who also turned around and went back because of the weather. These are two pictures made by Michael Paxton, who was also part of the Rochester contingent driving down the 90 in the middle of winter. In his case, extraordinary dedication. He was getting on a bus on a daily basis, leaving Rochester a couple hours before the workshop and coming home really late at night. But he's been a presence in these workshops since then, and a mentor, and I just appreciate everything about him. This is a picture you'll find in the other room, made by Tony Barnett, who's a Rochester participant. And another, which I think is here, on this wall. And her cyanotype, which originally she wasn't going to make, and then at the last minute in our retreat in Rochester, she said, all right, I have an idea, and recruited everybody who was there to be part of this kind of group portrait in cyanotype. So the folks that were there at the end of that run are all represented, and I thought it was just a great representation of how people are brought together to support each other in this process and do it by getting creative. All right. That's all that I've prepared. If folks have questions for our participants, for the others in the room with the work I shared, this is the time for that to happen. If people are, having appointments and needing to bounce, we can take a couple minutes to leave room for people to go and then come back for questions, or we can jump right into questions. I guess it's my choice. So why don't we take 2 minutes? People can stand up and stretch. If people have to go. Thank you for your dedication to these couple of hours and attention to the work. And if you want to continue the questions, we'll resume in 2 minutes.
For that. But I want to thank again everybody who has a hand in this, and that's everybody in this room, and especially these guys who, took an opportunity, said yes to me asking to present. May not have presented as artists before, so they were doing something that was very new and fresh and probably somewhat intimidating, but they didn't express that to me when I asked them. And they did an amazing job. I mean, so let's show our appreciation with some curiosity.
Hey, Brent, I have 2 questions for you. How long is this show exhibit going to last? And then when is the next Odyssey program going to kick off?
Those are questions that we're in the process of answering at the moment. We're waiting to hear about some grant funding and aiming to get the next Odyssey workshop up and running next fall, probably in a parallel structure to what we did with your group. That's the goal.
7th.
Yep, ish. So, and I do want to say that there was a level of administrative bravery here at Flower City Arts because we did not have all of our ducks in a row when we started in the fall, but Chris and Juliana and Joe and others here felt like this was important enough to kind of take a chance on and hope that we could raise the money to complete the project. And their hope was paid off, and our two angels here who made it possible, Terry and Sharon.
Well, thank you, Bob. Angels. This is life-changing for us, so thank you.
Well, thank you for sharing your story, because it's been life-changing for me in a different way, but I'm honored to have sat here and listened to all your stories. They're amazing, simply amazing. And thank you for your service, everybody.
I agree, the presentations were wonderful, rich and personal, you know, and that was really wonderful for me to hear. And this was an opportunity for me, and Gary's image meant a lot to me.
And you got to me, become friends.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm just a little sneaky taking pictures. Don't let anybody know I'm doing it.
Well, I think also with like Odyssey too, I think from what I understand from a lot of the veterans that have been through the program, is veterans trying to find a purpose. You know, like through their military careers, you know, they were always told, get up at 4 in the morning, PT's at 6, eat at 7, you know, work duty day starts at 8, you know, like things like that. It's like very regimented. And, you know, especially like when you're, you know, deployed or something, you know, it's a lot of excitement, you know, even on your downtime, you're not fully, you know, down at all. You're all hyper vigilant, you know, you want to go do something. You're ready, you know, to go do something. So coming back home, sometimes, you know, it's normal for most people, you know, to just get up, you know, sleep in on Saturdays, you know, make breakfast for the kids, you know, things like that. But the purpose for one's life kind of changes for a lot of people. And I think Odyssey is a good way for veterans to find another purpose, you know, find an outlet, you know, have that focus, you know, to help ground them and come back home a little bit better mentally prepared.
So I'm going to amplify that thought a little bit, and what I've seen is, you know, and Gary's photograph of Sharon is a kind of prime example, this sense of using photography in service of each other. And, you know, Gary, you sell yourself short by saying you were just sneaking around making a picture, because what you did in combining Sharon's moment now with her past,
Yeah.
and acknowledging
That
that.
just kind of struck me when I, you know, saw the pictures up there and she was there, and I don't know, it just kind of went together.
Yeah, and it's a true act of service. So I think, you know, what I discovered about photography and the camera over the course of my work is that when you present to somebody with genuine curiosity and a sense of respect, it's amazing, doors open. And when you add enthusiasm and beauty to what you're delivering, the doors swing open even wider. But there are opportunities, and I've seen them happen in Buffalo, and I'm sure that they're going to happen in Flourish and Rochester, for people to use that camera and giving a gift to somebody else. You know, Chris does it when he teaches, Michael does it when he teaches. When these people are mentoring each other, they do it. We had a group in Buffalo, 2 really instructive wins about the program. Chris Veltri went back to his high school and offered free senior portraits to kids who couldn't afford them. He got in cahoots with the principal, and they figured out that if they had a short writing contest for people who wanted free portraits, and then they cross-referenced the names of the kids who submitted work with the kids who were receiving food, free lunches, that they would be certain that they're giving the opportunity for these free portraits to the kids that needed them most. And that's something that I know Mike Thaxton was part of. He went out and helped make those senior portraits. And then in Buffalo, we had a veteran who accompanied me making final family portraits for veterans who were in hospice care, which was incredibly meaningful. Neither of those initiatives became institutions. You know, the program needs support, I think, to do that, but it also happens, you know, they don't need to be institutions for them to be important to the people who had that experience. I feel extraordinarily lucky that we're able to continue doing this work and that we're building a community of people committed to continuing it. But if this only happened for one day, that would have been important too. You know, I'm not going to not take my kid to Six Flags, Darien Lake, because I can't take her there every day. It's important to have these discrete experiences and let them flourish, but it's also incredible to be able to string them along in a program like this. So service, there's opportunities for that service to continue through photography. You do it, you know, you've all done it. You did this for your sister-in-law, you did it for Elliot, you know, you both did extraordinary things recognizing your mom's contributions to your lives, so it doesn't end, it's going to keep going.
I just want to say one thing. I wasn't sure I wanted to come to this to begin with, because I just got nervous because I didn't know anybody. I didn't really know what was going to happen. And my wife gave me that little kick in the butt, said, "Go, you're going to have a good time." And I'm glad she did. You know? And I met a lot of crazy guts that I would have never known before. So it was a good time. I enjoyed it.
And that's a good comment, because I think the camaraderie within the classes makes us really strong. I know over in Angola, when we first met that first weekend, yeah, I could feel it. You know, people were talking, people were chatting, and nobody knew each other. It was hilarious. Had a good time, and then you know, as class went on, you know, I think the last class that we had was probably the saddest class we had, because we kind of got in the groove of, you know, seeing each other once a week, you know, sharing, you know, looking at people's photos, you know, laughing, crying, swearing, you know, it's just a good time, you know, and like, you know, you got a little photography family that you never knew that you had, and so, you know, it kind of brings us all closer together, and, you know, I think, I don't know for anybody else, but for me, I feel quite alone a lot of times, you know, and then those classes, you know, kind of makes me feel not alone, you know, for 3 hours a week, you know, I feel like, you know, I got a little bit of support there, you know, I can support other people. So that coming together, I think, is really important for a lot of us, you know, no matter how, you know, grounded we are with family, with religion, with our way of life, whatever it is, it all comes back down to the people. And I think that's what makes us all really strong as a group here.
And I'm going to have to agree with him as well, because in the military, like I said in that picture of my boyfriend, is that we become a unit, we lose the individual, right? We're all working together, we're all sharing the same hardships, we're sharing holidays, we're missing the days that our children are born. You know, we're missing the days that people pass away, and sometimes we can't even make it to that. And who is there to support you? It's the family that you make in the military. And when you get out, it's like an echoing chamber of loneliness. It's different. It's like ripped away from you almost, of something that's huge part of you. And finding that over and over again anywhere is difficult, and Odyssey definitely gives a little bit of that back. So I'm really happy for this program.
Yeah, these are amazing groups of people. One of the things that astonished me the first time, and I see every time, is that veterans is like the easiest group to kind of create community with. And I've taught people who are, refugees in camps and kids in HIV clinics and cancer patients, and I didn't know when I started Odyssey, kind of like, what is it going to be like to create a group here? And holy shit, like, you get 4 vets together and they're telling like stories and finding out things that they have in common, and I was like, I don't really have to do a lot of work to bring people together. Like, they're going to teach me how to do this, and they're going to do that work themselves because it's part of who they are as travelers, it's part of who they are as soldiers, it's part of who they are as training, in their training, and you have experience kind of finding each other and forming a group, and being there for each other. So, if there's a small amount of credit that goes to the program for creating that opportunity, that's great, but this is something that you all inherently have learned to do, have honed over time, and have a gift for. And it's been amazing to watch in each of these cohorts.
I'll just make a quick comment. I have a lot to do with the center, but I don't want these comments to be really about me. I came to this today because I have a lot of respect for the work that Brendan is doing in this entire thing. A lot of respect for the work that Joe has done to bring the grants in here. I've known Sharon for a million years. I work with Chris a lot and Juliana. I had no idea what to expect. I came last night, I saw your work on the walls, I was super impressed. I've had many conversations with Chris Talento back here, who I admire a lot. I was very, very moved by this, and I feel very committed that this needs to continue for many cohorts to come. Not only that, but I feel like all of you are now really like a big part of our art center community. Like, to me, you're all artists, whether you identify as that or not. At this point, your values and the things that you're sharing with your work are, I think, something that everyone who appreciates art can feel and resonates with them. I represent a small group of people that do alternative process photography. I teach that, and that's what I was making noise over here when you guys started, because our class was wrapping up, and it was the second and the end of our class. And a lot like what you guys are talking about, the last day is sad. You don't want to let anybody go, so you're unfortunately a little bit disruptive. But seeing the cyanotypes especially is something that fits in with a lot of the work that we've been doing, and we've done a big group exhibit for 5 years. We're going to skip this year, but we're going to come back, and I really feel like we want to expand what we do, and that we would love for a portion of the work that you guys have been producing to be a part of what we do there. Not only is the work amazing, but I think that the message that you're bringing with the themes that you're exhibiting when you're expressing yourselves is a facet that we don't represent enough, and there's a lot of opportunity there. So I really, from the bottom of my heart, thank you all for being so honest, and even those of you that were nervous to talk, I think you did an amazing job. It was very, very powerful today.
Thank you for saying so.
All right.
I want to thank you guys too for being brave enough to go up there. You're next.
Brendan, thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.